Just like, oh, sorry mate. Sorry mate. He's on your way. So hot. Alright, hello again. Story MFG fans, people that use the phrase washed out as not as an insult. People who smell their clothes, not because they're smelly people, but because the clothes are dyed with plants and flowers. People who make their own granola. It's loud here. What else? People that buy stainless steel pans or lust over them. Yeah, I'm here in India at one of our production partners, our main production partner, Colours of Nature. I started off making one type of video, and I've ended up with something altogether different, a little bit more focused on natural dyes. So apologies if it's a little bit disjointed. It's hot, and I filmed this over 2 days, back and forth, just filming things as and when they were available to be shot. So I've got a lot of outfit changes. You're just going to have to suspend your disbelief with the continuity. But yeah, I'm here with Jesse. We're shooting. We just came back from a shoot in Thailand, shooting some of our collection, Butterfly. It's so beautiful here, but it's so hot. Yeah, we just shot collection in Thailand, also picked up some stuff in Thailand, met a manufacturer, and now we're here at the dyehouse shooting some content, getting some projects done, lots of bits and pieces. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for following along, and yeah, let's go. Hi guys, I wanted to have this intimate, quick kind of like sidebar with you guys before I start taking gear around. Just because there's some people with very, I think good intentions, but bad actions, who, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as you're walking around with me, we've been invited, you're going to see a lot of brown people, and it's hot too, so hot brown people, including myself. And I mean hot as in heat. I haven't got a high opinion of myself. For some reason, seeing brown people making things triggers a lot of you, no, not a lot of you, a very small amount of you, into feeling like you need to comment about slave labour, child labour, how much are people paid, yada yada yada. These guys are artisans. We talk about it all the time. We talk about all those other things all the time. Those things do need to be called out, they need to be addressed, but it's only when brown people are involved that it seems to be a topic of conversation, and I'm not sure if it comes across how demoralizing, how racist, how gross that can come across when you make those comments on a video where we're explaining about what an amazing artisan, what an amazing process. People here paid fairly. We charge a fair price. You can see how much money goes into this, from how much things cost, and how me and Katie live, and how small our company is. This stuff is expensive to do. The people here work here out of choice, and they are artisans, and they are at the top of their game. What else do I need to say? The people in this video have all been asked for consent. They're in the forefront if they want to be. They're in the background if they want to be. They're not in the camera at all if they don't want to be. It's not about centering myself at all, but you're watching me. If you want to hear some of their voices, then check out our TikTok over the next few weeks, or stuff might be out. We've got some direct interviews with them, and we've got some stuff on the website too. There's lots out there, but just help me out. I mean, we've been trying forever, I think succeeding at showing the people that make stuff and how skilled they are, not in an effort to be like white saviors or uplift them or anything, although I'm not white, but because it's wrong to hide people. And I've got lots of friends with brands, and they do not show their makers because they're worried that they're going to be accused of being making stuff in sweatshops just because it's brown people making stuff and it looks hot. Well, it's hot here, it's sweaty as fuck. but that's because it's India and it's a high summer, and this is a real beautiful place. So I have a tip for you, actually. I've got a tip. If you're watching this and you're watching like one of the craftspeople or artisans or whatever word you want to use, if you're watching them do something and you feel the urge to say something mildly racist that makes you feel better, just imagine they're white. Just if you see someone doing a little bit of natural dyeing or embroidery, just imagine they are a white dude doing leather work somewhere in Montana. Or if you see somebody I don't know, sewing on a machine here, and they're brown, and you're like, I need to say something about wage conditions. Just imagine they're a white lady in a white coat in a perfume house in Paris, and just ask yourself whether you'd be talking about that kind of stuff, asking the kind of questions you might want to ask us. I am not saying that they're bad questions to ask. I'm saying ask them in context. And we're really open. I'd love you to read all of the stuff on this, on the essays. I know it's very difficult and almost like impenetrable. Use ChatGPT if you want. Use Google. But I guess I just really need to say that because you know the people we work with, they see the comments too, and they're very proud of their work. And if there's a comment there that's like, oh, this guy doesn't get paid 5p a day or something, like, how's that going to make you feel? Imagine if it was you. It's pretty rotten. So it's not everybody, and it's mostly people, newcomers, it's mostly white knights, it's mostly people on adverts, and it definitely largely happens when we make something that goes not viral but is a bit more popular. But I thought I should put this in here now just to try and minimize it. These are all the dyes that are used here at the dye house. Not all of them, but these are the ones that we use the most. Thought it'd be nice to go through them, give a little bit of information on all. This is absolutely not an exhaustive list. I also apologize in advance that I'm going to be using the scientific names and like the English names for these things. On our website we try very hard, we do list everything in their common name and also local names. I think that it's important to to use the language of the people that work with the things, but I can't say them as well, and I don't want to butcher them. I feel like that might be equally disrespectful, so I'm just going to say the ones that I know. And if you're interested in that, please go check out the website for all of the information. There's quite a deep information on all these dyes, but it's different seeing them in person. So here we've got pomegranate. We don't use it that much. We use it to kind of make a muddy-ish yellow. They say that in traditional medicine this is supposed to be very, very good for skin health. I mean, all of these are. I could just say that about all of these. And this is myrobalan. This is one of the ones that we use the most. It's like what would you say? It's like maybe the most important one, almost the most important one, but it's like the least impactful. This is the seed of a plant, and the reason that it's so important and so interesting and so incredible is that, well, it's a medicinal seed, that's one thing, but the other thing is that it's full of tannin, the same thing that's in wine and tea, that basically stains your teeth, the same thing that's in wine that gives you that kind of dryness, and the same thing that's used to literally tan leather, tannins. So when you dye something with this plant, it comes up a very like light yellow, like dirty yellow, muddy, almost like at its darkest, it's like a brown paper napkin. It's really not a very striking colour. Where the magic comes in is that when it's exposed to iron, it immediately reacts and turns anywhere from like a khaki green to a black. It's used in natural printing, so you would, if you see anything, Jesse's wearing a shirt right now, which I'm sure maybe try and find a way to get in later on, which is ecru fabric, and it's got like black drawings on it. That's been dyed in myrobalan, and then it's printed with iron, and then wherever it's been printed, it reacts. Depending on what process we use and how much iron and the pH and all that kind of stuff, we'll get either black or our khaki green. Our khaki green or our, the black is basically extremely dark green. So we found a way to kind of half do the process before it fully goes that way. So that's the myrobalan. This is it ground. You'll see here lots of like all of them in their original states and then their ground states. Like any chemical reaction, the finer you grind something, the more you'll be able to extract. So the iron comes from all kinds of different places. You can buy iron like this, ferrous. That's what we use here sometimes. In other places they use iron literally from like old iron keys that they leave in water to rust, and they use the rusty water. Sometimes they even ferment it. I'm not sure what the point of that is, but it's never been understood. This is also myrobalan here. This and this are the same thing. Just I'd never really seen the two together before, and I just asked the dyer what the difference is, and all he said was the small one is extremely powerful. So I don't know. These small ones are before they bear seed, so I'm not sure why they would use one or the other. But that's even all this time on, I'm still finding out new stuff, and that's going to be really interesting to find out the reason. So next, madder. This is madder root. This is used to make red, oranges, pinks. This is what Iranian Persian rugs were dyed with. This is what the British Army used to dye their red clothing with. Apparently, they used to dye it with this red because they wanted it to be so that if soldiers got shot on the battlefield, it wouldn't be so horrific for other people to see it. So it's kind of like a blood red color. Very, very good for health. Apparently very good for sexual health, that kind of stuff. Here it is ground. This is jackfruit. This one's a really, really interesting one. In the lifespan of story, it's pretty recent, but that's still 5 or 6 years ago. This is made from chipping up and grinding the twigs that hold the jackfruit fruit. So it's kind of a waste product. You can see how yellow it is, full of dye. So it's a complete like luxury, but it's also was once a waste product. That I believe is pomegranate flower, like these. This is the husk. That's the flower. Over here is babble bark, my personal favourite because I'm a boring brown person. This is this I believe is the most like health-giving one of all. If you look up the history and uses of this basically it seems like you could like chop off your own head and this is supposed to put it back on. Like it's used for everything: skin health, eczema, sexual health, hormone imbalances, all that kind of stuff. These are all medicinally used. But for me, this is the most important thing is that I love the colour of it. It's here. This is brown. That's sapan wood. That's makes our like hotter reds, like hot pinks, hot oranges, that kind of stuff. It's a really, really wonderful dye to work with. The only issue is that it's quite light sensitive. So we use it knowing that it's going to fade quite fast. If you own or have owned any of our dark purple, blurply kind of colours, it's dyed with that mixed with indigo. And what happens is that dye fades much faster than the indigo. So the redness kind of fades and leaves like an elephant blue, and that's what gives it the beautiful like kind of quick aging process that has. And then lastly, indigo. So this is what indigo looks like this is indigo leaf. There are many ways to use indigo to dye with it. From a very, very basically, you could put this in water and let it ferment a little bit, and then you could dye with it. I think I'd have to do like another whole video on how we extract indigo from here. There's actually one on YouTube, but it doesn't have my droning voice over it. But basically what happens is that we the leaves are fermented to liberate the dye, and then the water is evaporated, leaving a kind of like indigo jam, and then that jam is dried into these indigo cakes. I'm not sure if the camera is going to be able to pick this up, but if you were to see indigo, chemical indigo, synthetic indigo I should say, it would be blue. It'd be like dead blue. This is like almost purpley red. Can you see that, Jesse? And that's because that's not a trait of natural indigo. The indigo that's in the plant is as blue as the synthetic one. It's chemically identical. The reason it's a red cast, as they call it, is that there's impurities inside the natural indigo, and by that I mean like other things in there that are also colours, but like are very, very much more weakly represented, and then they are in this dye because it's a natural product. It's a little bit different, so it's a red cast. It's really, really beautiful. It's like almost like a jewel, and that's ground up here. And then this is the indigo pods, they called them. They're seeds. They're very hardy. Oh no, sorry, this is not indigo pods. This is Cassioterra. This is, I thought that we weren't allowed to talk about this, but it turns out we are, because they've given it to me to talk about. This is what feeds the bacteria in the vats. This is what they eat. This is what they do their stuff. Again, like, I feel like everything about natural dyeing is so beautiful. These seeds are like the most beautiful seeds I've ever seen. They look like tiny little pebbles from the beach. They're traditionally these are also a medicinal food, but they're used mostly to feed cattle. But they're a very complex carbohydrate. They're kind of like eating oats in the morning. They're a slow release energy for the bacteria to keep them really healthy and happy and not in that like sugar rush state that I've talked about before. What are these alien egg-looking things? I hear none of you ask. Not one of you has asked. But I'm here to tell you because you're watching my ramble. These are some of the old dye vats that have been used. The dye house switched to much deeper ones recently in the last couple of years. So these are the old ones. So these are the ones that dyed early story pieces. So they're made from basically clay and chicken wire. And what would happen would be that these would be dug into the ground. I'm going to show you a bit later what they look like from the top, but this is what they look like inside. These will be buried in the ground. And they're in the ground because that can keep a more constant temperature. You want to keep this a living, fermenting thing. So beer makers, wine makers, etc., depending on their environment, will often have like these like heating bands around things, or other ways of or cool or heat the room that they're in. Other ways of managing temperature. The way of managing temperature for these natural indigo vats is keeping them underground. These are quite different. If you've seen any of the content from the past, we showed stuff in Thailand. The vats are about this size. They're just sort of very, very deep bowls, almost like a deep salad bowl. And that means basically you can just dye a lot less at once. I can't remember exactly what these could do. I think it was something like 6 kilos of yarn a day. A jacket of ours is about 300, 400, 500, 600 grams. So it could dye 10 jackets if it was 600 grams worth a day. But that would be, because of the way indigo works, that would be dyeing the jackets a light indigo. Because when you dye indigo, and I'm sorry if you already know this stuff, but I'm just going to keep repeating myself for people who get uninitiated. When you dye with natural indigo, you don't get a darker color by just having more dye or more concentrated dye. You get it by repeatedly dyeing, because it's like a coating. It starts off light, gets darker and darker and darker. So you could dye 10 pieces in a very light color. If you wanted them a darker color, maybe you could dye 5. You'd get like double the depth. If you wanted to be very, very dark, maybe you get 2 or 1. That's how it works. And what I mean by how much you could get is that these are living vats. They've got bacteria in them. Actually, you know what? We'll do an edit and I'll show you the actual dye. I'm sorry in advance for how low cut my shirt is becoming. It's getting hotter and hotter. So this is kind of like the reason we started working with colours of nature, and this is the thing that they do the most beautifully, I think, or in the world. There's quite a few people. Hello. There's quite a few people doing like true natural indigo. There's so many in Africa, here in India, lots of places all around the world. One of the, got to be a little bit careful, isn't it? Rabies outbreak here. So these are the natural indigo vats. I'll show you from the top in a second. So these are about double the depth of the ones I just showed you. I think. Jesus, how deep are these? Is it like 5 foot?
It's 1,000 liters. We have in here.
1,000 liters.
I don't understand food.
They said they're 1,000 liters. They're like 5 foot or so. They're like here. This, if I got into it, and these are buried down in the ground. So yeah, this is natural indigo. It goes all these ones over here, all over there, pretty far. Although about half of them are in use now. They're covered with these rattan tops to stop the flies. So these are fermentation vats. I'll try and be. Do you know what? This is my space. I can be boring. So natural indigo works through through reducing, basically, and in scientific terms, that is taking oxygen out of the equation. Taking oxygen out. What happens with natural indigo is that it is blue when it's just kind of like in the kind of normal state. Natural indigo is blue when you get it as a powder. This is brushing over like how it's taken out of the plant. But we just say we're starting from natural indigo. It's blue. But if you took that blue powder and put it into a vat, nothing would happen. You would put fabric in there and it might stain, but it wouldn't dye and it wouldn't last forever. It wouldn't be what you're after. What you'd have to do to make it dyeable is you have to make the vat water, you have to reduce it, you have to take oxygen out. And so there's many methods of taking oxygen out. In industry, which we won't focus on too much, they use chemicals. They use chemicals that like quickly deoxygenase liquor. That's one of the reasons why it's so terrible for the environment, because of course oxygen is life. For most things. So when you take oxygen out of liquid using chemicals, there's often quite a lot of those chemicals still in the mix. And when you dispose of it, those chemicals start taking oxygen out of other things. If you just used chemicals in a vat, dog fight. If you use chemicals in a vat and you threw the vat on the floor, those chemicals would suck oxygen out of the grass. Like it would suck oxygen out of lakes, it sucks oxygen out of fish, it sucks oxygen out of your fucking skin. That's why they wear gloves. Anyway, so we don't do any of that, obviously. Although there are kind and clever methods of doing that in industry. There's lots around there. It's just not what we're about. So there are a few methods. There's lots of methods. Some of them have died out using things like urine and blood and lots of gross things that we don't use, but no one really uses them anymore. There's one using iron, which we've used in the past, but we don't use it much. But principally, the methods that we use in Thailand is what they call the fructose method. We're using fruits. Something about adding sugar to. Well, it's not something about. I'm trying to be informative and interesting, but not get too thingy. And I think also me just rambling and apologising for being like this is probably more annoying than me just saying it. So there's a method using fructose and sugars, and you guys probably would have heard of antioxidants. That they are things that remove oxygen. So we use some people dye using antioxidant fruits. Thailand principally use things like star fruit and tamarind, etc. That's a great way of dyeing. It's very slow. It's very difficult. Uses lots of skill. It's one of the easier natural dye things of doing, but it is kind of you end up with more waste. And by that I don't mean waste in like the toxic thing. I mean you end up with more material that you could have used to dye that is now not usable to dye. A lot of sludge is what they call it. Then another method is fermentation method. This is something that takes much longer. This is kind of like sourdough or winemaking or something like that. If you were to start it from, if you had the knowledge and the ability to do this yourself, and you started a vat today, you would be waiting probably about 10 days before you could really use it. Some of the bacteria in these vats here, I believe, are at least 2,000 years old. I think they got some starter liquid from another vat that was like somewhere up north in India at the beginning of all this. Again, you don't need it, but you know, it's a beautiful thing, just like getting sourdough started from your mates. In the fermentation method, I'm being very basic, but in the fermentation method, what happens is that bacteria live inside of the vats, and you feed the bacteria. There's lots of different things you can feed them. What they feed them here is they're very open about everything, but what they feed them here is, I think it's a trade secret. It's kind of like being a coach and having an athlete. You want to give your bacteria something that works for them, but you don't want to give them something you don't want to give them junk food, because what you ultimately want is a bacterial colony that's really, really healthy, really, really predictable, and is happy. So you could give the bacteria sugar, and it would work very, very fast, but then it burns out really fast, just like humans. So lots of people give them kind of like more complex foods, complex carbohydrates, that kind of thing. And as the bacteria respire, they breathe the same thing we do, oxygen. They just, breathe it out of liquid. They then would, take the oxygen out of the liquid, and all of the carbon dioxide rises to the top in bubbles. And that's why sometimes when you see really healthy looking indigo vats, they've got lots and lots of bubbles on top. That's because there's healthy bacteria living in there, creating these bubbles, and the air is escaping air or carbon dioxide. Then what happens with the vat is that once it's reduced, aka has less oxygen in it, the indigo loses its oxygen, and it's looking to find it again. It wants it again. It needs it again. So when you introduce fabric into the vat, it gets soaked up into the fabric, and then you pull the fabric out, and it quickly binds with the air, and it goes back into that state where it cannot dye anymore. And by dye I mean dye. This is Kumar with me. He's been working here for 29 years. He's kind of like a master dyer. He's incredible. I remember when I first came here, people were telling me that he can judge the vat by taste. It's not something I would recommend, but that's the kind of affinity and awareness he has. My microphone disconnected, which is why I'm having to re-record this now. But what Kamar's doing for us here is showing us the natural indigo dye and how it works. And what you'll see is he's put in an ecru shirt, and he's kind of swishing it around in the vat, and he's got such poise that he's giving it like a proper treatment rather under there, but introducing almost no bubbles into the vat, because putting more oxygen in obviously is the opposite of what you want to do. So he's very, very carefully working the indigo into the vat, and once he's ready, oh, here it is, we pull it out, and can you see it's this kind of bright green. It's actually very, very difficult to pick up on the camera, but this is a very green, and as the indigo is reacting with the oxygen, it's slowly turning darker and darker blue. It kind of goes bluish quite quickly, but then takes a lot longer to develop. Depending on the kind of dye method that you use, sometimes it can be very quick, very or more slowly than this. If you do it industrially, the green is like toxic, yellowy, bright highlighter pen, yellowy green. But this is a much more cool natural one. As you can see, it's slowly developing to a blue. It'll take a little while. Natural dyers will be shocked at how deep that color is already. This is the hallmark of a super strong vat. So you can see there ecru, the dyed one in the middle, and then one that had been dyed before. And here I am in front of the hot dye unit. Once again, this was also when the microphone was disconnected, so I don't even remember what I was talking about here, but I think what I was saying was that the dye house is split into, oh, nice fabric being taken away. The fabric is the dye house is split into two sides. I think most natural dye houses that I've seen are. It's just natural. One being the cool dyes, as they call them, which in this case of this dye house is just indigo. Indigo doesn't need heat. In fact, with the fermentation method, it kind of needs a constant temperature. And then on this side is all the other dyes that I've talked about before. In other places in the world, there are other dyes that don't need heat, that are cool, like in Japan, kakishibu, which is fermented persimmon. It's got an incredible smell, incredibly challenging smell, even for me. And in Thailand, they do use something called ebony, which is kind of related to kakishibu, as far as I know. It's kind of like a fermented persimmon type fruit as well. But here it's just indigo in one place, and then all the other dyes in this place. So behind me would be all of the hot baths, all the hot dye baths, where we do like madder and myrobalan and all of that kind of stuff. And it's all fired by local fallen wood, making these kind of teas you see there. So here would be extracting dye from madder, I believe, in there. So it would be all those madder chips and madder powder boiled up over time to liberate the pigment. And these baths have been here for years and years and years and years. They just keep getting repaired and reused and repaired and reused. And then on the other side here, these smaller ones, this is where little tests are done, little samples and little experiments. This one, I believe, I think this is also madder, but it might be that we're doing it at different pH or different mordant or some kind of different mix, trying something new to achieve a different shade. Here, let's see what was on this side. I can't remember. That was just boiling water. That was probably for scouring fabric, which means removing the wax and stuff. And then over here, here we go. Here's some yarns being dyed. Jessie's just getting some stuff dyed. Okay, so why do we use natural dyes? I don't always know how to answer this because I've got so many answers. I've got so many reasons, from the emotional to the scientific to the financial. One of the main reason, though, is just that it makes me feel good. I love natural dyes, and so does Katie. When you wear natural dyed goods, when you wear stuff from Story, it's like being in a limousine. I can't describe the feeling. It's more like when it's not there, it's the absence of it. It's like, I remember traveling once. I managed to travel once on business class during COVID, when flights were not particularly full, and now every time I get on an aeroplane and walk past those seats that I've tried before, I know how good it could be. That's what it's like wearing anything but Story and wearing anything but the stuff that we make that's natural dyed. It's better for your skin, it's better for the planet, it's better for those who work with it, it's better for the water system. Feels like it could be the future, even though it's the past. There's an element of it that's like cultural and beautiful and historic. Natural dyeing, from where my father's from, Iraq, has died out a long time ago, and I'm not so dumb as to think that we can preserve it here in India or in Thailand or anywhere else we work, Turkey. But it's more like it feels like there's a door closing on it, and we're lucky enough to be able to work with the last remnants of it as the door shuts. It's just the most wonderful thing in the world, and still to this day, although a lot of brands have kind kind of bitten, as they would say, story and the style. None of them have gone to the extent that we have with natural dyes. And I think that's the magic of it. Once people get into this, there's no other brand but Story. It's like that for me. I mean, look at me. I'm like a cult leader and a cult follower for this kind of stuff. I would also say, like, on a personal level, it's like I keep at things that are really interesting, and natural dyes never stop being interesting. There's always something new to learn. There's always mysteries and histories. I remember when we kind of first got into it, thinking that there was like a whole massive world of natural dyes out there. Something you could do in your back garden, only to learn that, like, the really skilled people, there's so few of. To learn that there's, a lot of colonial history, a lot of disgusting bullshit that goes on and has gone on with it. And also to learn that there's a lot of fakery, a huge amount of fakery. I mean, it's so bad that whenever I see someone talking about natural dyes, I immediately think it's bullshit. I immediately think, because, none of this stuff is protected. There's no name. You could say something's natural dye just because it has a little bit of natural dye in it, or you could, but it hasn't been through all this, like, a laborious process, and it's got lots of synthetics or synthetics fixes and synthetic mordants and that kind of stuff. So it's just, I have had a lot of hyperfixations over the years. This is the one that's this has been like the main story arc behind all the different side quests. And for Katie, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but I know she just loves the colours, how they look. When you're working with nature's palette, there's really no gross colours, and they all work together because we experience them all the time in nature next to each other. It's a beautiful thing. So this is the water treatment plant, and so the hot dyes, the indigo, all the stuff, all of the water runoff comes down here into here to be processed. One of the things that people say about natural dyes is that you use a lot of water. It's kind of like a gotcha for people that work in industry, especially. I've had a lot of people be like, "Oh, it's not eco because it uses a lot of water." Well, it does use a lot of water. It uses a hell of a lot of water. You have to water the plants. You have to use water in the dyeing. But the difference between the water from here and the water that's left over from commercial dyeing, I shouldn't even call it water from commercial dyeing. It's kind of like toxic liquid. The liquid that's left over is this water can be used, and you'll see in a second. This water can be recycled. Just funny way of saying something that just is just natural, can be used again. Oh, it's starting up. So what happens is all of the liquid from dyeing, all the vats and everything goes into these channels, goes into here to be split, and the dyes and sediment and stuff goes into one place, and the water goes into through this whole very complicated system that is, honestly, I will spare you. I know this is supposed to be my space to be as boring as I want, but it's pretty deep. But it's an incredible water system, and the most incredible part is this. We've got Jesus sitting on the edge of it, but this is the final stop for the water. That's here. This is the water that remains, and as you can see, there's fishes living in there. There's 3 or 4 generations of them. That's how clean the water is afterwards. It's a little bit green, but that's green for the same reasons that any pond would be green. Algae, fishiness. But yeah, when I first saw this, there was one fish in there. Now there's lots and lots. Okay, so the last thing here at the dye house is just behind the one of the units. They've got all this land here. Oh, finger. And we grow natural indigo here. Natural indigo is an incredible thing to grow because it's nitrogen fixing. It's kind of the opposite of most plants. It actually draws nitrogen into the soil, and everyone's wearing their Sunday best for this. They all dressed up to be filmed. Really, really love it. I love these people. It's kind of a bit of a ceremonial one. They'll come around and do it properly later on, but they did it for me and Jessie, and then they wanted a group picture, which we did. How amazing do they look? Oh my god. Hello, I am back in England, and we've been back a couple of days, and I was putting together all the clips and realised that the video I did as a kind of outro didn't work, so I'm redoing it now. I think the phone got too hot, it was boiling. Every few minutes the phone was overheating and stopped recording. And now it's really, really windy, so I'm hoping this little fluffy thing on the microphone makes it listenable, because I've got nowhere else to film this apart from the roof. Just wanted to say thank you for watching. It's almost therapeutic being able to do these kinds of videos. I've wanted to do them for a long time, never found the time. I was going to start in November, and I got some videos on my phone in November, December, January, but there was a few of them where I'm crying, because it was the hardest time ever for us as a brand. It was so bleak. It's such a crazy thing that we could be doing the best we've ever done as a brand, best on the website, in terms of like love for the brand and profile and orders on the website and that kind of stuff is better than ever, but financially was the pits. Like, the brand had allowed itself to sleepwalk into disaster, and we had to make quite a lot of changes, get help from family, from friends, from everybody that works at the company. Had to make a lot of changes. We had to reanalyze things. We're still constantly, ever since then, been working really, really hard. We've changed so much. We've cut so much away. We've gone back to basics on so many things. It's been a real radical change. The company that Story MFG is today and where it was in less than a year ago is two different companies. Kind of like rising, I don't want to say rising from the ashes, because it never got to the ashes, but it was bleak. Industry is basically imploding on itself, and there's I don't know. I don't want to be negative. Fashion is such a negative space, but when you're a brand like ours, where we're small and self-funded and slow growing, it's woven into the DNA. You're always worried about money. You're always worried about, oh gosh, see, it's so windy. The phone has blown down. Okay, the wind had disconnected the microphone, so now I have to go back to voiceover again. But all I was saying was thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave any questions. I'm sure I'll do an FAQ type thing, but I always answer questions on TikTok anyway. Also check out Katie's TikTok. She's just started putting stuff on there, and she's extremely cute, and there's loads of information on there, the kind of stuff that probably I wouldn't go over. There's also our personal TikTok, our Instagram, etc. And thank you so much for all the lovely comments on the last one. Keep them coming. We all dine off of those. And the more popular this is, the more I can justify making these instead of sitting down and doing quote unquote actual work.